The story of Robin Hood and his guest. Now, guest in Old English and Middle English means a stranger. Because if you go back far enough in time, you were duty bound, honour bound, I suppose, to provide food to travellers. That's strangers. So they would become your guest. Now, there was nothing that Robin liked more than to welcome a guest to the greenwood and to provide them with food, a fine stew, perhaps, containing some good venison that had been kindly donated, so to speak, by the Sheriff of Nottingham. And of course, at the end of the meal, Robin and the rest of the merry men would then say, a certain fee is due to us for our hospitality. And for preference, they liked perhaps a fat friar who had taken more than was really due from the people that he had ministered to, or perhaps travelling monks who were overburdened with too many worldly goods. Monasteries at this time, of course, being incredibly wealthy. And what need had they of silver crucifixes when they had sworn a vow of poverty? So it was one day in the greenwood when Robin was waiting for a guest, preferably a wealthy guest, to appear, when riding along the road came a knight, older perhaps than most knights, and a little down at heel, riding a horse that was a little older than you would expect for a knight. And he introduced himself as Sir Richard of the Lees, and he happily sat with the outlaw band and tucked into the fine stew with much gusto, as if he was hungry. It surprised Robin, Little John, and the rest of the merry men. At the end of the meal, they explained that a fee was now due, and Sir Richard said, "Alas, if I had money I would gladly share it with you, but I have only 5 shillings." While Sir Richard was talking to Robin, Little John rifled through Sir Richard's saddlebags and found that indeed the knight was being completely honest. There were only 5 shillings in his saddlebags. The merry men listened carefully while Sir Richard explained how he came to such a woeful state. His son, being young and a red-blooded man, had, in a duel, unintentionally killed the son of a noble. And in order to save his son's life, Sir Richard had had to raise a large sum of money to pay what is called the Wergild. Wer, man, gild, money. The man price, the blood price, for the life of the noble's son. Sir Richard's own son had gone off on crusade in the hope that he would be able to raise enough money to pay the Wergild from Saracen gold. But in the meantime, Sir Richard had borrowed money at a high rate of interest from a local monastery. The debt was due to be paid. If Sir Richard could not hand over a large sum of money, the monastery would demand the deeds to his land, and his people that he cared for very deeply would become tenants of the monastery, not of the caring lord. So Sir Richard was travelling to the monastery to beg for an extension on the loan of another 12 months. Robin, hearing this and fearing that the monastery would not be a good landlord to Sir Richard's tenants, and judging that Sir Richard was a kind and caring lord, simply went to the hollow tree wherein gold which he had gained one way or another was hidden. And he brought out a bag that contained enough gold to settle the debt, so that Sir Richard could maintain his land and carry on caring for his own people. So Richard probably was a little embarrassed, but he had no choice. For the sake of his people, he took the gold and travelled on his way to the monastery. And he knelt before the abbot and asked for more time, for another 12 months, to repay the debt. The abbot refused, and the abbot demanded the deeds to Sir Richard's land. And it was at that moment that Sir Richard rose to his feet and handed over the golden angels. An angel's a coin that's, I think, almost pure gold. Handed over the angels that Robin had lent to him in good faith. So the debt was cleared. The abbot was furious, and Sir Richard returned to his land. Time passed, as time does. And Sir Richard had, one way or another, perhaps because there was a better harvest that year, perhaps because his son returned from the Holy Land with riches, somehow or other, Sir Richard managed to find the sum of money that he needed to repay Robin and the merry men. And as he was travelling to Sherwood to try and find the outlaws, he passed through a fair. And of course Sir Richard enjoyed the hustle, the bustle, the competitions of a fair as much as anyone else, and he was somewhat surprised to see there in the wrestling ring was the home champion defending his own wrestling title. Many fighters had accepted the challenge, had got into the ring and had tried to fight the defending champion, and all had been defeated, all had submitted. And the prize for defeating the home champion was a bag of silver and a pipe of wine. If anyone knows what a pipe of wine is, please do write in the comments. And a pipe of wine. And there, stepping into the ring, was David of Doncaster, one of Robin Hood's own merry men. And they fought. And David of Doncaster was a great prize fighter, a great wrestler. So it took a little time, but he managed to throw the man of the home village so that the defending champion, the defending wrestler, had to submit to the outlaw, David of Doncaster. The pipe of wine and the bag of silver were given to David. And at this point, the crowd, who had been enjoying watching a man of their own village defeat so many other people, began to grumble. The mood of the crowd changed. And it was clear that they intended to rob David of his bag of silver. So Richard mounted his horse and rode to the wrestling ring. And he pulled David up behind his saddle so the two of them were riding the knight's horse. And they gave the pipe of wine to all the people who were watching. But they took with them the bag of silver. So it was that the knight rescued the outlaw from some very angry villagers who would have stolen his silver. So the two of them appeared in Sherwood Forest as the moon was starting to rise, and in time for an evening meal and much merrymaking, much telling of stories, much singing of songs. So Richard returned the money that he had borrowed from Robin Hood and the Merry Men. David of Doncaster handed over his bag of silver to Robin, for all was held in common in the greenwood. And as the full moon shone down through the trees, a fine evening was had by all, and a feeling that all was right with the world. I rather like that. I rather like the idea of Lord Sir Richard rescuing the young outlaw. I hope you do too. Lots more Robin Hood stories, lots of other stories, lots of Brothers Grimm stories. So please do subscribe to my channel, and do watch some of my other stories. Well, listen to some of my other stories, and please, please do like and please do write something in the comments. It's always lovely to hear from everybody. So lots more Robin Hood stories and lots of other stories coming up. And may your own life be filled with the silver of the full moon. Take care.